our very best not to be sidetracked by the fact there's a camera.
No, we'll forget that. We'll forget all of that.
Just look at this really large microphone. So Trisha,
Look at this microphone. Yes.
I'm really excited today. Obviously because I'm going to be interviewing you.
Yes.
But also because you've been so kind as to agree to have that playing in the background.
Yes, I know, which we're not looking at.
Which we're not looking at. And if anybody, you've got the view, I won't have the view.
No, but I'm not looking at it.
No, but if anybody is watching, they might send us a little comment and you've got to see that. It's really distracting because I did it the other day. So we'll ignore it.
I'm not looking.
No, good. So, sometimes we do a bit of a preamble.
Yes.
I'm not going to do that today.
No.
Because of you and who you are.
Okay.
So I've previously done a double interview with two people, and now I feel like I'm interviewing
two people. Good. I'm glad we've got that out there straight away. Sure, it's important.
So, Trisha, person number one, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Podcast.
And now I introduce you to my friend, Patricia.
Yeah. So, because the listeners probably haven't got a clue what we're talking about.
Shall I explain what that's
about? Do that?
It's not. I'm not on the run or anything like that. It's really quite innocent. But my equity, I'll get that in pretty quickly. My equity name is Trisha, spelled in a ridiculous way with an S and an H, all very trendy, because this was a long time ago.
Okay.
Trisha Lewis. Historically, the Lewis is based on a previous husband, but we won't go off on that tangent.
No, don't. I've got more than one.
No, don't. I've got quite a few more than one. So, what then happened, I kept that name, I did loads of performance work under that name, Trisha Lewis, started my speaking career under that name, was doing reminiscence work in care homes under that name, and then I got married for another time.
Oh,
third. Okay, third.
Oh, only three.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll talk about that later. Oh no,
but I do talk about my present husband to keep him on his toes.
I loved that. Yes, I heard that. I love that. That's excellent. So, yeah, I have actually said that when I've introduced Steve to people with my present husband without realising what I've done. So, when I got married, and we've been together about 10 years, and then we got married, and I thought I'm going to be very old-fashioned, and I'm going to get rid of the double-barreled surname that I had because of the other husband in the middle, who was lovely. I'm still very good friends with him and all the rest of it, and just go straight on with Steve's name, which happens to be similar to my maiden name, unusually. So Webster, Patricia Webster. So then, soon after that, when I trained to be a celebrant, I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll keep these very slightly separate, and I'll take the opportunity now to embrace my new status as Mrs. Webster. Patricia rather than Trisha, because it sounds terribly grown up. And nobody calls me Patricia, to be honest. And that's how Patricia Webster now is me as a celebrant. So really, I would say probably a bigger percentage of people are more likely to have met me as Trisha Lewis, probably because it's longer. It's a longer history, and covers quite a few different areas, as I sort of touched on. But yeah, I'm both, and that does cause a certain amount of hilarity because people ask me a very simple question. You know, and so which your name, and then there's a pause and like a confusion, and I say, oh my gosh, we've only just started, and she's.
I know. I had a bit of a problem with Vodafone the other day. I've got contracts for my girls' phones, and the name.
Yes, it is. Did I?
Well,
and have an update on what's
it Smith? And actually, I've got two contracts, and you could tell this guy thinks this woman's mad, and this is clearly a scam.
Yes, absolutely.
Less
Been
of
there,
that.
got that T-shirt.
Less of that, more of you. So, which part of you would you like to tell us about today?
Okay.
I'd like to know about both, really.
Yeah, because they link.
Journey.
Everything links. I think in my world, I at least I think so. The Trisha Lewis stuff. So me as a performer and as a speaker, entertaining speaker, which I note you've got someone else you've interviewed who describes themselves as that, and that is the right description, because otherwise people expect you to turn up and be terribly serious and academic and all sorts.
You don't want to do
we don't want to do that. So I got my equity card back in 1994, something like that, by writing a one-woman play and touring it.
Wow.
Which was me challenging myself, because I'd done a lot of Amdram and I thought, no, I can get into doing this sort of professionally. But I had like family stuff going on and kids and things and all that. Yes, quite, you know, and I thought one woman stuff is going to be the thing that is easier to weave in and out of life, because I won't have to get people together for rehearsals, I won't have to be auditioning and going up to places and all of that is involved. So that's kind of how that started. And once I'd done that and got my equity card, which was one of those moments in life where you feel, ooh, very sort of, oh, I did it. I did
really
that.
Proud.
Yeah, and then I took it from there by continuing with the one woman stuff. But I did a piece for schools, and then on it went. But I always say to people, this isn't because I'm a control freak.
Nothing wrong with that.
Maybe. I mean, the original incentive was to do with it being the most practical, the thing that I could get on with and actually do, rather than wait for something to happen. And that was, to me, one of the big pitfalls for youngsters going into acting as a career, is if they just wait for things to happen, because it's depressing beyond belief and you just get so demotivated, you think you're useless, you're never going to do it. Whereas if you just do the smallest of little things, just putting something together, devising some little creative thing for a tiny 5-minute slot somewhere, anything, but you're doing it, you know, and then you never know what's going to come on the back of it. So my life's been a bit like that.
So you always wanted to
apparently when I was 5, I said at my friend's dinner table, when her mum asked me what I wanted to be, I said, I want to be an actress. So, but I don't know where that came from, but I do know that I said it. But I was incredibly shy. This is now a cliche, because you get actors all over the place saying, oh, it's really, really shy. But it's true, I was painfully shy. Did elocution at school, because I went to a very posh school, and it discovered that I was actually very good at reciting things out loud. I didn't have the shyness, which was kind of weird, but I didn't. And that kicked off me sort of going to little Amdram things when I was a kid, etc., etc., doing a bit of Shakespeare, all of that. And I let it go for years and years, because I was in London doing ridiculous jobs left, right and centre, and what was going to say men, I didn't mean men left, right and centre, but you know, that stuff that you do. And and so it kind of went, but
so
eventually I got it back.
Not the traditional acting training?
No, I did a lot of workshops and a lot of those kind of training scenarios. I would say the biggest lessons I learned were working with really good directors. I auditioned for drama school, but I already at this stage had 2 kids, little kids. I got offered a place and I was really tempted, but it was ridiculous. It was so impractical, and I'm very glad actually I didn't do it, because it just meant me it made me find my own little path and own way. And but having said that, that's not because I'm arrogant enough to think I didn't need to learn.
No.
But I've learned in other ways.
Yeah. So what is your own path in terms of that part of you then? What do you do these days?
It sort of continued to develop. I've done all sorts of really interesting things, from like fringe theatre in London, which was horrendous. You know, sort of doing a one-woman show to 2 people, because Battersea Arts Centre had a policy that if there were more people in the audience than in the cast, they'd go ahead with it. Anyway, that's all part of life's learning curve. It was very tough, but I did it. And no, they loved it. The 2 people loved it. I was very touched. And yeah, I learned a lot of lessons actually. Fringe theatre is gritty, quite depressing stuff, and you have to be away. There are all sorts of things going on. So, but then as time progressed, as I say, I got into doing these one-woman things more, and the big changing thing for me really was when, happened by accident, I was doing a couple of one-woman shows, really, I suppose you could call them. One was on Joyce Grenfell, who older people will know, and one was Noel Coward and Gertrude Lawrence. Anyway, they were lovely pieces, and I had a pianist as well at the time, so there was singing involved in it as well. But I was doing them in rural touring settings, so Hampshire County Council and Dorset, Arts Reach, hog the limelight. And through that connection, particularly the Hampshire connection, huge county, I got invited to do two things. One was I was commissioned to write a piece for their care homes, to go in and do in all their care homes, and that was a brilliant experience. The other was to do a piece for their libraries. So I did a piece on Mary Wollstonecraft and Virginia Woolf for the libraries, which I'm still doing now, and this is years later. Yes, and I did a piece on the 1950s as well for the libraries, but for the in the care homes I did a piece based around the 1950s, and that just, because they knew me from doing that led on to that then led on to a whole new world, because I became involved in doing reminiscence with people with dementia. I was trained in a lot of areas of that. I became quite obsessed about it for a while, and I'm still really interested in it. Did hundreds and hundreds of doing care homes, Dorset, Hampshire, all over the place. Still do to a certain extent, but more limited for reasons to do with economy, really, to be honest. But then I also managed to then. I thought, well, I don't want this piece only to be used once at this library thing. I want it to be used again, because it's for the good, actually. So I then auditioned for the WI speaker list. Oh,
yes.
And I all hail the WI. I love them.
I am. You are not. I am not worthy if you are on the list.
I'm on the NAFAS list as well, National Association of Flower Arranging Societies, and that is no mean task. It's adjudicators, the lot.
Really?
Yes, really serious. I just didn't realise what that world out there was, and I'm so grateful for having stumbled upon it, because it has, in terms of a gift in life, it's huge, because it's just so me, because it means you're going to so many different places. I mean, obviously Proby's, Rotaries,